Alright, everybody, welcome back to the Sophisticated Sasquatch and another book review. I just finished this one about a week ago, and I'm finally getting around to a review of it. So it is called The Templars and the Shroud of Christ by Barbara Frale. She's a historian with the Vatican and has access to the entire Vatican library. So I heard about her by reading another book by Ian Wilson called The Shroud, and he talks a lot, sorry, I can't talk today. He talks a lot about the Templars in there and recommended her as a resource to go back and read about the Templars. And the Templars have always, or at least over the last decade or so, have really intrigued me as to the history surrounding them, and they are so often today associated with, Freemasonry and the world's view of the tragic or criminal aspects of the Crusades. So I wanted to, I've been interested to know what the truth about them is, and so I was hoping that this book would help with that. It was a good book. Unfortunately, it didn't give me all the information that I wanted, but it was still a good book. In here, she talks a little bit about Ian Wilson's theory that while the Shroud of Turin was missing, it was actually the Templars who had the Shroud, and that the accusations of idolatry and having an idol were actually the reliquary that held the shroud, and that because of how the shroud appears to people, that was mistaken as an idol and idol worship. So she talks a little bit about that. She delves into the trials surrounding the Templars and the accusations made against them by King Philip of France, and I guess kind of exposes, it was a different time. It was the Middle Ages, and how they went about obtaining confessions was much different than what we do today. So a lot of the testimony is what's the word I'm searching for? Not very reliable, based off of the methods that were used. And once the church took over the investigation from King Philip of France, the story changed drastically, because they weren't using the torture methods that King Philip and the French were. So it has a lot of good information in there, and the Templars were an interesting order. They were, I should have put up their oath here. Maybe I can link that in the description. The oath they took to defend pilgrims and Christendom, mostly against the Muslims, as they were the aggressors against the church at the time. So there's all sorts of myths and legends, conjecture about the order, that this book doesn't answer all those questions. She has written other books about the Templars, so I may check those out to see what else she has to say. There's no doubt that they were tremendous fighters. I read somewhere that at the time they considered one Templar the worth of at least 10 regular soldiers, and they were feared and hated by the Muslim invaders for their dedication, their ferocity, and their unwillingness to retreat. So where they went, they inspired bravery and hope, and for a long time they were all that stood between the invading Muslims and the Holy Land. They also were a very wealthy order by the time they were disbanded. So, there's no denying that. How they came across those riches, depending on where you read, it might be the hidden treasures of the Temple of Jerusalem and King Solomon, or it could be some sort of Da Vinci Code thing. It's really borders on it doesn't border. They are ridiculous, but the truth is in there somewhere, and Barbara Frale has a lot of access to records that most of us don't. So I do think it's worth a read, and if you get the chance, it's a part of history and part of the puzzle if you're at all interested in who the Templars were and any interest in the Shroud of Turin. Definitely a good read. So thanks for stopping by, and I will catch you next time.